morning or good afternoon, my YouTube viewers. It's Crystal here. In this video, what we're going to be discussing is logical formulas and conditional workflows in Excel. So this is lesson 2 in my free course, Intermediate Excel course. And so it's an entirely free course. You don't have to spend any money. The only thing that you have to invest is your time. So you should have already taken the basic Excel course. And if you've already taken the basic Excel course, then you'll know how to get into Excel and create a file and go into an existing file. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to go into our existing Excel file. So I'm just going to click here onto my existing Excel file. And so basically, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about our Excel logical functions, decision-making functions, and error handling functions. And so basically what I did in order to prepare for this, I already created the spreadsheets, but I'm going to go over the code with the code of the spreadsheet to explain that to you. So the first thing we're going to talk about is Excel's logical functions. Excel's logical functions are and, or, not, XOR, and true and false. So and returns a true value if all conditions are true, or returns a true value if any condition is true. Not reverses a logical value. XOR returns a true if an odd number of conditions are met, and true or false returns logical constants of true or false. And then you also have decision-making functions. So and then your decision-making functions, you've got if, ifs, and switch. And switch is a relatively new function in the newer versions of Excel. So if returns one value if a condition is true and another value if false. And then so ifs tests multiple conditions and returns the first true statement, and switch compares one expression against multiple values and returns the matching result. And then you also have error handling logical functions. And in the last video, which was lesson 1, we actually discussed errors in Excel. So you've got if error, it returns a fallback value if any error occurs. And in the last lesson, we talked about the type of errors that you can actually get in Excel. And then if NA returns a fallback value only for NA errors. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is I went and got a small data set. And this is a small data set. It's from 01 to S15. And what this small data set does is it gives you the conditions on whether you can play tennis or not. And so I like this data set because it's small and it's going to fit on my Excel spreadsheet on my laptop. And so your outlook can be overcast, rainy, or sunny. Your temperature can be hot, cool, or mild. Your humidity can be high or normal. Windy is going to be true or false. And play is yes or no. So that's going to determine whether or not you should play tennis. So what I've done is I've created some functions along with this small data set so you can see how the functions work. So the first function is going to be and. So and, if and O equals overcast and Q2, that's O2 equals overcast, and Q2 equals high, that's true. So that means you're going to play. And then we're going to come over here to another and. So if O2 is overcast and Q2 is normal, then no, then that's a no. That's going to be a false. So on O2 is overcast and Q2 is high, that's true. If O2 is overcast and Q2 is normal, that's a false. And then we've got the or function. So now we've got if O2 is overcast or Q2 is normal, that's going to be a true. And if O2 is rainy or Q2 is normal, that's should be a Q2. We'll just see what it says. If O2 is rainy, which O2 isn't rainy, and Q2 is normal and Q2 isn't normal, that's going to be a false. But what we could do, we could say if O2 is overcast and Q2 is normal, and Q2 is normal, that's going to be a true because you're going to have one or the other. But we'll go ahead and make this rainy. Okay, so basically, and just to make it overcast and normal, so if it's overcast or it's normal, it's going to be true, and that's what we had. And then if it's rainy or it's normal, it's going to be true, but it's not. O2 isn't rainy and O2 isn't normal, so it is a false. So the next thing we have is your not function, and your not reverses your logical value. So we say not R4. So you go over here to R4. R4 is true, but if you say not R4, it's going to be false. But if you want to say equals not R2, it's going to be true. So what not does is not reverses the value, whether it's true or false. And then you've got XOR. XOR returns a true if an odd number of conditions are true. So this is an XOR if Q2 is high and R2 is true. So that's, you have only one condition is met, so that means it's going to be an odd number of conditions, so that's going to be true. But in the next one, you've got if Q2 is high and R2 is false, then you have an even number of conditions are met, so it's going to be false. And now you have true, false, returns logical constants of true or false. So R2 equals true. And so that's a false. And the next one has R2 equals false, which is true. Because R2 is a false, it isn't true. So it returns a false if you say R2 equals true, and then R2 is false. So if you say R2 is false, it returns a true because R2 is false. Now we're going to go to our decision-making functions. So let me just get a sip of water. So basically, our if statement. So if statement is a very crucial statement in Excel, and I use it a lot. So you need to learn how to use if. So if O2 equals overcast, then you're going to print play. Otherwise, print don't play. So in this one, we've got O2 equals overcast. So if you look at the little data set, you've got 4 examples of overcast, and all 4 of those examples of overcast you can play. So we're going to print play. And then there's not really any examples about rainy and sunny, because rainy you can be play or don't play, and sunny you can be play or don't play. And I looked through the data set to see if I could find anything for like true and false, or to see if I could find anything for like humidity, or to see if I can find anything for temperature. And I didn't do, I did a quick glance, I did a quick look, but I didn't see anything where it said definitively play or don't play. But you can say here, we can say equals if. We'll say O2. Let's see what we're going to say. We're going to say O2 equals rainy. O2 equals rainy. You're going to say play. So I'm just trying this out. I'm just doing this on the hop. So I hope it works, but let's see. It says don't play, so I got it right. So if O2 equals rainy, which it doesn't equal rainy, you say play. Otherwise, you say don't play. So I was just guessing that for this course, and I got it right. Yay! So now what you have is ifs. So ifs is if you have multiple if statements. So basically, you've got ifs. O2 equals overcast. You're going to print play. And then you've got an and statement of O2 equals sunny and Q2 equals high. You print don't play. And you say and O2 equals rainy and R2 equals true. You print don't play. So in this particular situation, since O2 is overcast, you're going to print play. And then in the next example, we're going to say O11. So if O11 equals overcast, you print play. And if O11 equals sunny and Q11 equals high, you print don't play. And then you had and O11 equals rainy and R11 equals true. You print don't play. Okay, so now O11 is actually sunny. So O11 isn't overcast, so you would print play on that, but O11 isn't overcast. It's sunny. And then you have O11 equals sunny and Q11 equals high. So Q11 is high. Then you're going to say O11 is sunny. It is. And Q11 is high. And it is. So that's going to be don't play. And then with O11 is rainy. And it's not rainy, it's sunny. And R11 is true. It's false. You're going to say don't play. So in this instance, we've got don't play. So we've got two situations of ifs. And so the difference between if and ifs is if is a one condition that you have to meet, but ifs is multiple conditions. So ifs is going to be more difficult to work with than ifs, but I wanted to show you both if and ifs. And so now we've got compare switch, which compares one expression against multiple values and returns the matching result. And so what you're going to do is you're going to change words around. That's what happens with switch. So with switch, you're going to say if O2 is sunny, you're going to say a bright day. If O2 is rainy, it's going to be a wet day. If O2 is overcast, you're going to say cloudy day, and otherwise it's going to be unknown. So on this one, O2 is overcast, so you're going to see it's a cloudy day. But if you want to copy this, okay, so we're going to copy this over here, and we're going to paste it, but we're not going to say O2, we're going to say O16. We're going to say O16. So rather than O2 being O16, rather than it being O2, where you've got words that you know you're going to have, we're going to have O16. And you can see that on O16, there's not anything in O16. It's blank cell. So it's not going to be bright day. It's not going to be a wet day. It's not going to be a cloudy day. It's going to be unknown. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about error handling. Basically, if error, and we covered if error in lesson 1, but if error returns a fallback value if any error occurs. So rather than just having the normal error like a value or a ref or a name or an NA, it's going to give you a message. So we're going to use VLOOKUP. And I use VLOOKUP in my day job. So if error, VLOOKUP O2 from O to S, and it's the fifth value, to the right, and false means it has to be the exact wording. If that's what you're going to print, otherwise you're going to print not found. So we've got this if error VLOOKUP O2. You're looking at O2. You're looking at columns O to S. You're going to look at the fifth column, and you're going to print the exact wording, and it's going to be not found. But we use a VLOOKUP again, and so it's exactly the same, except for instead of looking at the 5th column, you're going to look at the 6th column. Well, there's not anything in the 6th column because you're doing O to S, so there's not anything in the 6th column, so you're going to say not found. And then now you're going to have NA, if NA, so that means if it's not a value. So again, we're going to use VLOOKUP again. So if NA brackets VLOOKUP brackets O2 and O to S 5 false, it's not found. So that means if there's a null value there, then you're going to print not found. But there's not a null value there because you're using VLOOKUP. You're looking at O2, you're looking at columns O to S, and you're looking at the 5th column, and false means you're going to be using the exact lettering, and you're going to say not found because there is the word in not found, which is yes. There is the word in column S, which is yes. So now exactly the same thing. So you're going to have if NA brackets VLOOKUP, and you're going to say O16, and you're going to be O to S, and again you're going to look at the 5th column and false. So you can see that there's not anything in the 5th column, so it's going to be not found. So in this particular page, what we've done is we've covered Excel's logical functions, we've we've covered decision-making functions, and we've covered error handling functions. Okay, so that's it. And then so what we're going to do is we're going to show you two practical applications on how you can use these logical functions and error handling functions and conditional workflows. So the first thing that we're going to have is we're going to have a grading system. So if you are a teacher or if you are a teacher's assistant, you may be required to either grade papers or enter the grades of papers into a spreadsheet to keep a record of the students' grades. And so basically what I have is I've got some names that, some popular names from cartoons and comic books and TV shows and stuff like that. So Penelope Parkenfark, I don't know who she is, but I think she was in a cartoon when I was a child. She made in 99. Batman made in 98. Robin made 87. Mickey Mouse made 95. Minnie Mouse made 75. Donald Duck made 66. Roadrunner made 91. Big Bird made 56. Cookie Monster made 59. Kermit the Frog made 88. And Miss Piggy made 92. So you know what their score was. But what you want to do is you want to grade it. And you're in a hurry, you don't have time to think about it. So what you're going to do is you're going to write a formula in Excel to grade the scores, to say what grade they have. So what I did was I said ifs. So ifs means it's more than one if. So ifs B2 is greater than or equal to 90, you print A. If B2 is greater than or equal to 80, you print B. If B2 is greater than or equal to 70, you print C. If B2 is greater than or equal to 60, you print D. And if B2 is less than 60, you print F. So we plug that in, and then when you plug that in, Penelope Parkenfark got an A. And then basically the neat thing about Excel is you can copy and paste the formula all the way down. So you don't have to reprint the formula over and over again. And a neat way to copy and paste it is you take your cursor and you put it on the little square in the far lower right side of the cell, and then you just take it all the way down to the bottom, and then you print it. And then so basically you basically what you've done is you've copied and pasted the formula all the way down. So that's the great thing about Excel. You don't have to type the formula in every time. You write the formula once, and then you copy and paste it. And then because we're using relative referencing, it will automatically relatively reference the cells. So here you've got B2, the next one down you've got B3, the next one down you've got B4, and all the way down to B12. So that is a very simple grading system that you can design. So if you ever find yourself needing to mark grades and needing to determine somebody's grade, that's a really easy way to do it. And then another thing we've got is we've got a customer discount. So you can decide what discount somebody gets. So I just used a really simple customer discount. I could have made it more elaborate and I could have had some ifs in there, but I just decided to make it a really simple customer discount. But it could have been done more elaborate, but we're just going to say the same names that we had in the grading system, but we're going to determine, you ask the question, are they a VIP customer? And the answer to that is going to be yes or no. and then you're going to enter the quantity of items that they have ordered. So, and then after you have entered the quantity of items that they have ordered, you're going to determine whether or not they're going to get a 20% discount. And so basically we come over here to D2 and you say if brackets and, because it's going to be an and condition, B2 equals yes, so that means they're a VIP customer, and C2 is greater than or equal to 50, so that means that they have ordered 50 or more items, then they're going to get a 20% discount. And I have formatted the column in percentages. And then so all you have to do is, again, just copy and paste that formula down to the end of the list of names, which is going to be row 12. So then what you're going to have is you copy and paste it. So you take your cursor, you put it on the lower right hand side, and then you take it all the way down, and then it copies the formula. So that's a great thing about Excel, is you do not have to type the formulas in each time. You type the formulas in one time, and then you can copy and paste those formulas. And since Excel uses relative referencing, so whenever you paste the formula, it automatically pastes it to the next row. So B2, and then one row down is B3, and one row down below that is B4. And so that covers the lesson on logical formulas and conditional workflows. We covered everything that we're supposed to cover in this lesson. So you can practice some on your own, and you can make your own grading system, or you can make your own customer discount. And then if you're feeling really ambitious, you can have like maybe more than one criteria for the customer discount, like maybe put an if statement in there, which I could have done if I wanted to, but I didn't want to. So thank you for watching this video. The next video is going to be lesson 3, and we're going to be talking about lookup functions, which are going to be VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, and index match. So I hope you decide to watch the next video as well. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you got something out of it.